We still do not know how many people have died in the wildfires on the Hawaiian island of Maui, but with the confirmed number at 55, this will most likely be one of Hawaii's deadliest natural disasters ever. The blaze reduced the historic port town of Lahaina to a wasteland of ashes in just a matter of hours. Some residents say they had no warning until the flames were at their door. Were officials caught off guard? And how could a part of American paradise so quickly become paradise lost? I'm Brent Goff in Berlin. This is The Day.
It felt like I felt like I was gonna die that day.
You have to run out, just grab whatever you can. The most important thing is run.
There was nowhere to go.
Everything's just red, and it's all dust and wind, and it's strong as hell.
It does appear like a falling firewood.
Beyond any tsunamis or any other tropical storms that have come through.
Beautiful homes that are very old and they're made of wood. Those went up like a matchstick.
It is going to take many years to rebuild.
Also coming up, the Russian mercenary group Wagner left for Belarus after their failed mutiny back in June. Reports say they're on the move again. It's unclear where to.
So it was clear that it was only an interim step, waiting for the next. And the next, what could it be? Could it be another engagement in Ukraine? Could it be a stronger engagement in Syria, in Africa, in African states, and so on? Or could it be a dissolution of the group?
And to our viewers watching on PBS in the United States and to all of you around the world, welcome. We begin the day on the Hawaiian island of Maui, where they still don't know how many people died in this week's wildfires, which now rank as the deadliest natural disaster in Hawaii in more than half a century. Crews are going from one charred building to the next, looking for bodies. Now, residents of the port town of Lahaina, which was practically burned to the ground, will be able to return today. The governor preparing them for, quote, destruction that they have never seen in their lives. Now, residents who escaped the flames say they had no warning. And now local media are reporting that Maui's fire chief and its top emergency management official were not on the island Tuesday when the fires were well underway. We have this report.
The historic Hawaiian town of Lahaina, reduced to smoldering rubble almost overnight. As firefighters work to extinguish the last of the flames, authorities have begun assessing the scale of the damage.
We probably have well over 1,000 buildings that have been destroyed. Many hundreds of families have been displaced. We'll rebuild. The president has already, just in 6 hours, authorized and approved our request for emergency support, but it's going to be a long haul.
Seen from the air, the once vibrant town appears little more than a wasteland of ash and ruins. Rescue teams have been deployed from the US mainland, but with hundreds of people still missing, there are fears that many never made it out alive. Some of those who did are returning home, only to find they've lost everything.
This is our first time coming back and actually knowing that our house burned down. We haven't really known anything for the last couple of days because there's no information coming through.
Tens of thousands of tourists have been evacuated from the island of Maui. But for the majority of Lahaina's residents, there is no home to flee to. Many will now move to emergency shelters across the island as the government works to open hotels and holiday houses for those now left homeless.
This is going to take years to recover. And it just breaks my heart that all the history from back in the whaling days of the 1800s, dust, ash and dust.
But despite the challenge and the cost, Hawaii's authorities and its people have vowed to rebuild, however long it takes.
Well, I'm joined tonight by journalist Naka Nathaniel. Naka is a native Hawaiian who spent years covering major stories around the world. He is now a columnist with the Honolulu Civil Beat. Naka, it's good to see you. I'm glad to know that you and your family are safe. You live on the Big Island, not on Maui, but you wrote in a piece for the LA Times and for the New York Times that you could see smoke on Thursday. I mean, give us an idea of how far away you are, particularly from Lahaina, and What did you think when you saw that smoke? Did you think a major disaster was underway?
No, to be perfectly honest. Yeah, we get winds here all the time. In fact, we end up with the same winds that did hit Maui. And in the past, it's caused, wildfires, but, nothing of this scope and scale. This is one of those, we're looking around right now trying to figure out what exactly happened. And as news is starting to come out, we're realizing that, these things that we never imagined, are happening. And this is one of the things that we need to do. We need to have better imaginations to prepare for these kinds of disasters.
Well, residents on Maui say that they were not warned, that no sirens sounded. I mean, how do you think that is possible on an island that regularly drills for tsunamis?
So tsunamis, so this is the story with Hawaii. Hawaii has always been affected by, by nature, whether it's been tsunamis, earthquakes, volcanoes or hurricanes, but we've always figured out how to deal with that. In this case, we're dealing with the consequences of centuries of land mismanagement here in Hawaii. Hawaii is supposed to be the lush tropical paradise that everybody thinks it is, but so much of the island has been given over to, really devastating forms of agriculture, a lot of pineapple plantations, sugar plantations, and ranching. And these are all activities that do not belong on this island. And when those companies, because the economies fell apart in the late 20th century, we've been left with lands that are boxes. And when we end up with substantial winds that come through, it causes these wildfires. And we just don't have the natural protections that we should if Hawaii had been allowed, to continue on developing the way it should have.
You write that this fire is a tipping point, and you wrote, I saw just a couple of weeks ago, you were asking, would Hawaii be prepared if global warming gets worse? What do you say to that now that this week has happened?
I mean, I feel really bad, that those words were written too late. I wish that these words had been written, years ago, and that, the teams that were put in place to deal with these sorts of disasters, to prepare people, had been, we're discovering now that many of these, the governor was off island, both the police, both the fire department chief and the head of emergency services in Maui weren't on island. And, if you don't have good, deep teams to deal with these sorts of situations, if you have single points of failure like it looks like we've had, this is why, we're just in shock right now with with what's happened.
Yeah, the rest of the world, considers Hawaii as America's piece of paradise. I mean, the place that you go to escape the realities that we all have. I mean, what do you say to the rest of the world tonight about that?
I mean, we've always had the same problems that everybody else has had, and it's been a marvelous marketing machine that has turned Hawaii, into this tourist paradise that people keep coming and, wanting to visit. And it's wonderful. We love visitors. We love interacting and having people come and visit. We just had visitors this past week, and it was marvelous getting a chance to share, this island with them. But unfortunately, we've had too many. And this is the same story that we've seen, this summer in Europe, too, where Venice has been overwhelmed, where so many tourist sites, you just can't move around. And this is the problem that Hawaii, during COVID, everybody disappeared. And so we got to discover, how special and how quiet and how beautiful Hawaii can be. But Hawaii is going to get close to 10 million visitors this year, and we just cannot sustain that. It's just something that's had too great an impact, on our tiny little islands.
Yeah, talking about visitors, I remember visiting you and your wife Meredith in New York City right after the 9/11 attacks, and I remember, how the shock in the city then was palpable. I don't want to compare that to what has happened here on Maui, but this shock, I mean, what is the shock like there where you are? Is it a feeling that something has happened and things will never be the same again?
It is one of those things that, just like you, I did think it, but I just don't feel comfortable saying that, obviously, just to compare the scale. But when you consider, how large New York City is, how large, and how small, our island is, that this is one of those things that, is just, it's hard to figure out. Maui has always avoided, a lot of the bigger disasters that have happened here on the Big Island. And it's just something that, if this place where it can happen, that was the same thing that happened with New York, is that, it can happen here. And this is the part that, Hawaii is dealing with right now, is it happened here. And that's just this shock, that we're trying to figure out.
Yeah, and I know everyone's still in shock. Maybe we can find some, silver lining in all of this. What would a possible happy ending, in your opinion, what would it look like coming from this tragedy? I'm in the same boat as you are, Brent. We're looking, at this point is that, we know that when things happen, that there are, an opportunity to reset. And one is I would like us to, reset our relationship when it comes to tourism. But number two, and most importantly, is that we need to find a better way to house people here in Hawaii. We've had a huge problem with people not being able to remain in the state because they can't afford the cost of living. And it's something that, if something, along this scale happens, that maybe it'll help reset the real estate market, but then it also give an impetus, for people to really dig in on some of the more innovative, plans, the housing issues that people have found solutions to, but we just need to have the opportunity to implement them here. Yeah, well, I'm sure everyone around the world is wishing you and everyone on Hawaii, especially Maui, all the best. Maybe there will be a silver lining to be found. Journalist Naka Nathaniel. Naka, we appreciate you taking the time to talk with us tonight. It's good seeing you. Thank you.
Good seeing you. Thank you. Good seeing you too. Mahalo. Aloha.